Howdy, everybody. Graz back with the Graz World of Sports Gaming. We're on Action PC Hockey for back-to-back videos. This is going to be the playoffs for the 2000. Well, it says 2023, 2024 down here. I think that's a glitch. We're going to exit out and come back. I'm not sure why it's doing this. Are we glitching here, people? Well, these are wrong. This is the 2007-2008 season. We're going to do the playoffs for that season. I've got on my pad here, I've got it written down. We have 8 teams from each conference. Number 1 seed in the whatever conference this is, I don't know the conferences, is my beloved Detroit Red Wings. In the other conference, it is Ottawa, which I don't know what their team is. Ottawa Senators are the number 1 team over there. So we're going to do the playoffs. Switch to the playoffs. Yes. They do a reseeding each round, so I'm going to make sure I remember to click that. Okay. We have Ottawa, Pittsburgh, and Florida were the division champs. And then Montreal, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Toronto, and Washington. The last 2 hockey seasons I finished, I believe, the Blackhawks won, but those were both 60s and 70s. So we'll see what happens here. Okay, here we have Detroit. I put California. It must be Calgary. C-A-L. Yeah, sorry. Anaheim. The Blackhawks are in it, so they could technically win 3 of my things in a row. Ugh. Nashville, Dallas, Vancouver, and San Jose. Okay. Reseed between rounds. Yes. Okay. 8. Set the pairings, and let's get rolling. These are all best of 7s. We'll start right here with Washington and Ottawa. Ottawa is number 1. Washington was number 8. That's absolutely fine. Please don't make me do that the whole time. Game 1, Ottawa wins 2-1. Ovechkin for Washington. He's the man. Brashear and Neal, no. Okay, so 2-1 victory there. All right, this was the year that Ovechkin had 65 goals and 112 points. So, for me in the replay. Okay, Philadelphia and Montreal. It's going to make me do that every time. Okay. Philadelphia beats Montreal 4-2. Plekanec for Montreal with 2 goals. 4 separate people for Philly. And we don't have any fights. Okay. All right, Toronto and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Evgeny Malkin was second in points for the season. So 4-3, Pittsburgh beats Toronto. Malkin with an assist and a goal. Not a fight, though. Tucker and Larocque. Larocque had an assist, so he was close. Closest we've had in a few replays to a Gordie Howe. All right, just moving on here. Got a lot of games to get through. Buffalo and Florida. Buffalo upsets Florida in game 1, 2-1. Okay. No fights. Catholic, Pominville, and Montador for the goals. Alrighty. San Jose and Detroit. Let's go Red Wings. They won the Stanley Cup this year, by the way. They were the number 1 seed, and they won. They beat San Jose 3-2 in this game. Maltby with a goal. Datsuk with 2 assists. No fighting. Goch, and Mihalik for San Jose scored. Okay. Nashville and Chicago. So for the Blackhawks to win their third straight replay for me, not in like the years or whatever, but then they would have to get through the Red Wings in the second round. Possibly. We'll see. I might be laying my chickens before they're hatched or whatever that is. Nashville beats the Blackhawks 2-1 in game 1. All right. No spears, no fighting. All right. We got Vancouver and Calgary up next. Whoop, not that. Calgary's the number two seed. Vancouver wins 4-1. Kessler with 2 goals. Nice. Lots of fights. Holy moly. Brown, Goddard, McIver, Goddard again, Isbister, and Fanoff. None of those guys made a run at a Gordie Howe. All right. Wow, lots of fights. Okay, Dallas and Anaheim, the Stars. Anaheim wins 3-1. The Mighty Ducks. Perry with a hat trick. I think that's my first hat trick in quite a while. Madonna scores for Dallas, but Perry with a hat trick. Okay. Interesting. Getzlaf assisted on all 3 goals. Okay. All right, so we'll play game 2 for them. Anaheim and Dallas. Anaheim wins 4-2. Excuse me. Perry with 2 goals. Getzlaf with a goal. Another assist. Barch and Paros. Nope. Okay. So Anaheim's up 2-0. Vancouver and Calgary with all the fighting last time. Calgary wins 3-2. Series is tied at 1. There's fighting again. Brown and Goddard. Goddard's had 3 fights in 2 games. Yeah. All right. Just a lot of were the people building or scoring. I mean, obviously they're scoring, but no runs at hat tricks or anything. All right, Nashville and Chicago. Blackhawks win 5-2. Let's see. We have 5 different scorers. Wow. 7 really if you count Nashville. Nobody doubled up. But Toes did have 2 assists. All right. Okay, Red Wings and Sharks, I believe. Red Wings win 4-3. They're up 2-0. Lidstrom with 2 goals. Holmstrom with 2 goals. All righty. Datsuk, 3 assists. He's a super stud. All right. Buffalo and Florida. Buffalo wins 5-4. They're up. I think they're up 2-0. All right. No runs at hat tricks or anything. Okay. Pittsburgh and Toronto. Pittsburgh wins 3-2. Malkin scores again. Wow, Roberts. Interference and misconduct. Look out. Okay, so Pittsburgh's up 2-0. Okay, Philadelphia and Montreal. Montreal wins 4-3. I got a fruit fly buzzing me. Montreal, and that series is tied at 1. No fighting. Plekanec scores his 3rd and gets his 1st assist. Chip Churro. I love these names. All right. And now Ottawa and Washington. Washington beats Ottawa 4-3. Series is tied at 1. Ovechkin scores 3 times. He gets a hat trick, one of them on a penalty shot. But that's a hat trick for Ovechkin. Pretty cool. Fighting. Bradley and Neal. Nope. All right. So that's tied 1-1. Okay, game 3, Washington, Ottawa. Washington wins 5-3. This could be an upset. Ottawa wasn't that good in the real season, and Washington has Ovechkin. Who had 2 assists this game. Fleischman with 2 goals. Fighting Neal and Erskine. I don't see them up here. Okay. Washington leads Ottawa 2-1. Philly and Montreal. Montreal goes up 2-1, 3-2. Kovalev with his goal. Okay. The Canadiens trying to do more. Pittsburgh and Toronto. Pittsburgh loses. Toronto wins 4-3. That's now 2-1 in games. Tucker with 2 goals. Stajan with a goal and an assist. No fights. Okay. Buffalo can go up 3-0 if they win. Buffalo wins. They beat Florida. They're up 3-0. Not 1. 3-0. So Buffalo is looking for a sweep. Red Wings and San Jose. San Jose wins. Now Detroit's up 2-1. No fighting. Michalek scores. Jeremy Rennick, I think, with 4 assists so far. Nashville and Chicago. Chicago wins 4-1. Kane with 2 goals. Toews with another goal. Burish and Nickel. Nickel with an assist and a fight, but that's as close as he gets. Okay. And Chicago is now up 2-1. Vancouver and Calgary. Calgary wins 2-1, and they're up 2-1 now. Fighting. There is a fight. Goddard, again. This guy just loves to fight. He's like Bob Probert for the modern world. And McIver. Okay. McIver. All right, 2-1. Okay, now we have Anaheim and Dallas. Dallas wins 2-0 in a shutout. Fighting Parros and Barch. Nope. Okay, who's the goalie that got the shutout? That would be Turco. So, okay, now there is only one series left that could be a sweep, and it's Buffalo and Florida. So, we're guaranteed some Game 5s here. Anaheim and Dallas. Anaheim wins 2-1, and they lead 3-1. Mike Modano does score. Fighting Parros and Barch. No fight from Goddard. Wasn't Goddard on this team? No, it must be a different series. My apologies. Get your fights in, Goddard. All right. So Anaheim is up 3-1 there. Calgary and Vancouver. There he is. And he fought McIver again. Vancouver wins 4-2. They are tied at 2. Daniel Sadin with his 3rd goal. Goddard and McIver aren't up here. So they're just out there to fight. They're up. So the Calgary, that's tied 2-2. Chicago and Nashville. Blackhawks go up 3-1, winning 3-1. Burish with 2 goals. All right. Bork with 3 assists. Okay, so the Blackhawks are up 3-1. Detroit and San Jose. San Jose annihilates the Red Wings 6-3. Michalek has a hat trick. That's interesting. Zetterberg with his first goal of the offseason. But Michalek, or whatever, is the name, and there's no fighting. Okay, Buffalo can go to the next round, be the first team if they can beat Florida this game. Buffalo 8-0. Buffalo scores 8 goals. What in the world? Hecht with 2. And he's the only one that doubles up, but jeez. Okay, this guy is up here. He got 2 assists in a fight, but he did not score. Okay, who threw the shutout for them? Miller. Wow, Buffalo sweeps and is in the next round. Florida was the number 3 seed here. All right. Pittsburgh and Toronto. Toronto wins 3-1. And that series is tied at 2. Okay. Not really a whole lot of doubling up on anything there. So, all right. Philadelphia and Montreal. Philadelphia wins 3-2 and ties the series at 2. Kovalev scores. Prospel, did he get a fight? No, he had a goal and an assist, though. Okay, so that's tied at 4, or at 2-2. Washington and Ottawa. Ottawa, where they drink champagne, wins 4-3, and that series is tied at 2. Ovechkin with 2 goals for the losing team. Neal and Brashear with fights. And that's all they got. Oh, wait. 3 guys. Clark with a fight, but he got taken out for the game. Oh, my. Okay. So that series is tied at 2. So a lot of 2-2s here. Washington and Ottawa. Ottawa wins 2-1. They're up 3-2. Alfredson with a goal, with his second goal. Fisher with his second goal. Okay. So they're up 3-2. Philadelphia and Montreal. Montreal wins 1-0. They're up 3-2. Hammerlick. Who? Price with the shutout. Okay. Toronto and Pittsburgh. Toronto wins 4-3. They're up 3-2. Malkin scores his 3rd goal in a losing effort. No fights. Okay. Moving on to the Red Wings and the San Jose Sharks. Detroit wins 2-1. They're up 3-2. Lidstrom with his 3rd goal. No fights. Datsuk with another assist. He has 6. He's a beast. Chicago could actually move to the next round here. And they do. They win 3-2, which means they win 4-1. Ladd with 2 goals. Haha, Ladd. No fights. Okay, so the Blackhawks will be waiting in the next round for somebody. We'll see. It's reseeding, so they might not have to play the Red Wings. I forgot about that earlier. Vancouver and Calgary. Calgary wins 2-1, and they're up 3-2. Okay, lots of fights. Goddard with 2 fights. How does he not get ejected? McIver with another fight. Okay. Kessler has two rungs of the hat trick. The Gordie Howe hat trick, that is. Okay, moving on. All right. Anaheim could move to the next round with a win over Dallas. Dallas forces Game 6. They're behind 3-2, but Dallas did win. Maitinen with 2 goals. All right. All right, here we go to the next set of games. Lots of 3-2s. Okay. Anaheim with a win moves to the next round. Dallas forces Game 7. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Maitinen with another goal. Niedermeyer with a goal for Anaheim. Okay. So we'll have at least one Game 7. Calgary and Vancouver. Still in the first round here. Calgary wins 4-3. And they win the series 4-2. So Vancouver is gone. Goddard and McIver did fight one last time. They had to get that in. I mean, wow. So Calgary will play Chicago, maybe. Interesting. All right. Now we've got the Red Wings and the Sharks. Detroit wins the series 4-2. They win the game 4-2. Datsuk finally scores instead of, assisting, which is he's really good at. Chelios gets a goal. Excuse me. So the Red Wings are in the next round. All right, Toronto and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh forces Game 6, I think. It was? No, they forced Game 7. with a 4-3 victory, Pittsburgh. Laraque. Did you get assist? No, he had a goal in a fight. Too bad. Blake with a goal and 2 assists. Okay, so that's a game 7. Philadelphia and Montreal. Montreal wins the series with a 6-5 victory. Oh, look at all that scoring. Kovalev with 2 goals in there. Prospel with 2 goals. Did we have any fights? We did not. So Montreal Canadiens are in the next round. They're going to be playing Buffalo, Washington, and Ottawa. Ottawa wins the game 4-3, and the series 4-2. Ovechkin has 7 goals in 6 games, and they cannot win. That's pretty sad. Neil and Erskine with another fight. So Spezza with 3 goals, and Alfredson with another assist. So, okay. So, Ottawa is in the next round. And they will play either Toronto or Pittsburgh. Toronto beats Pittsburgh 3-2. Okay. Pittsburgh was the number 2 seed. So, that means Evgeny Malkin will be going home. All right. So, Toronto in the next round will play Ottawa. Okay, who's going to play the Red Wings? Dallas or Anaheim? It will be Dallas with a 2-1 victory. All right. Lots of roughing. So the next round is set. We have Toronto and Ottawa, Buffalo and Montreal, Dallas and Detroit, and then Chicago and Calgary. Let's start with Toronto and Ottawa. Ottawa wins 3-2. Game 1. Spezza with another goal. They were down 2-0 and scored 3 straight to win the game. So that's cool. So Ottawa's up 1-0. Buffalo and Montreal. Buffalo goes up 1-0, winning 5-4. Vanek with his 4th goal. Plekanec with his 5th. Vanek with his 3rd and 4th. My apologies. Plekanec with 7th assist as well. All right. Dallas and Detroit. Dallas wins game 1. Detroit loses 4-3. Maitinen with 2 goals. Niskanen with a goal. All right. Mike Badano with an assist, his 3rd. Datsuk with his 7th. All right. Chicago and Calgary. Calgary wins 3-1. Goal in each period. Taos for Chicago wins. Or hits a goal, sorry. Goddard had a goal and a fight, but he did not get an assist. That would have been something if that dude would have got an assist, eh? Burish, no. Sarich, no. Sopel, no. Nolan, no. Okay. Moving on, everybody, that's our first game. Blackhawks and Calgary again. Chicago wins 6-4. Big scoring game. Taos for Chicago, 2 goals. Kane with a goal. All right. Did Goddard keep his streak alive? He did not. Nobody wants to fight him now. All right, so that series is tied 1-1. Red Wings and the Stars. Red Wings win 4-1. Holmstrom with 2 goals. Datsuk with another assist. All right, so that series is tied at 1. Buffalo and Montreal. Montreal wins 3-0. All 3 goals in the final period. Kovalev with 1. Mayor Kostopoulos? No. Okay. That is the first game Buffalo has lost in the playoffs. Excuse me. Ottawa and Toronto. Toronto ties it up 1-1. They win 5-3. No fights. Tucker with 2 goals. Okay. So all 4 are 1-1s. No sweeps. Toronto in a shootout wins 7-5 over Ottawa. Look at all of that. Heatley with a hat trick. Okay. Let's see, was there any fighting? Because this is a good game to... Nope. Okay. So, Toronto leads 2-1. Buffalo and Montreal. Montreal wins 5-4. They lead 2-1. Let's see. Fighting. Bagan? No. Mayer? No. Kovalev with 2 assists to help win the game in overtime. So Montreal's up 2-1. Red Wings and Stars. Red Wings win 3-2. Datsuk with 2 goals and his 9th assist. Can Datsuk be stopped? Probably. Okay. Modano with a goal. All right. Now let's see. Chicago and Calgary. Chicago wins 5-1. Goddard for Calgary gets in on the fighting again. This time Burish wants to fight. Ray Bork, I think. I think that's Ray Bork. He's onto his 5th assist, and he scored his first goal. All right. Chicago is just tough. Ladd with a goal and 2 assists. Lang with a goal and 2 assists. Chicago is very balanced. All right, so now we're going back up on the game 4s. Chicago wins 4-3. They're up 3-1. Goddard again fights with Burish this time. He always finds a guy he wants to fight. Sarich and Seabrook. Seabrook, look out. He did not get it. He did. Seabrook, whatever your name is. Seabrook with a fight, a goal, and an assist. There you go. We've got a Gordie Howe sighting. I love it. I love it. All right. So there we go. Chicago up 3-1 and a Gordie Howe hat trick. Detroit and Dallas. Dallas wins 3-2, tying the series at 2. Datsuk did score. Modano scored. All right. Buffalo and Montreal. Montreal wins 5-4. They're up 3-1. Okay. Higgins with 2 goals. Koivu with 2 assists and a goal. All right. So Montreal's looking good. Toronto and Ottawa. Toronto wins 5-2, and they're up 3-1. Kabina scores twice. Neal and Bell. Are they up there at all? No. Guy named Steen from Toronto. Is he related? I wonder. Have to look that up. Spezza with his 10th assist, 9th and 10th assists for Ottawa. All right. So now we've got some possible series enders. Toronto wins, they go to the next round. Toronto eliminates the number 1 seed Ottawa, 5-2. Panakarovsky, what a name, with 2 goals. All right. So there you go. Toronto is in the semifinals. Will they play Montreal or Buffalo? Montreal beats Buffalo 4-3 and wins the series 4-1. Buffalo had won their first 5 games and then lost 4 in a row. Plekanec with 2 goals. All right. Well, so it's Montreal and Toronto in the one semifinal. Dallas and Detroit. Detroit wins 2-1. They're up 3-2. Osgood with an assist. How often does that happen? So they're up 3-2. Okay, Chicago and Calgary. Chicago wins the series 4-1 with a 3-2 victory. Goddard gets one more fight in before he's eliminated. That dude, 72 penalty minutes. 74 with a delay a game later. That guy never met a person he didn't want to fight. Burish had a fight and 2 assists, but he couldn't score. Okay, so the Blackhawks are in the semis. Will they play the Red Wings or the Stars? The Red Wings win 4-3, and they win the series 4-2. Okay, Datsuk gets his 10th assist. Osgood with another assist. That gives him 3. Isn't he the goalie? Is that common? Goalies getting assists? I'm learning hockey as I do this. Okay, so the Red Wings will play the Blackhawks. So for the Blackhawks to win 3 straight replays, they have to go through the Red Wings. So Toronto, who were the 7 seed, and Montreal, who were the 4 seed, will play up here. And down here, Chicago was the 4 seed, and Detroit is the number 1 overall seed. So here we go. Toronto and Montreal. Montreal wins 4-2. It's 5 games in a row that they've won. Kovalev with his 7th. Plekanec with his 9th. No fighting. All right. Okay, Detroit and Chicago. Red Wings win game 1, 4-1. Blackhawks scored first, but then the Red Wings went on a run. Datsuk with his 11th assist and 5th goal. Burish found somebody to fight with. Downey. He misses Goddard, apparently. Okay, game 2. Red Wings win a 1-0 shutout. Who scored? Stewart, assisted by Lidstrom and Hudler. And it's got to be Ozzy, right? Ozzy with a 37-save shutout. Woo! Okay. Game 2 for Montreal and Toronto. Toronto wins 5-4. You know, let's just take a peek here. See, in real life, Toronto didn't make the playoffs, and Montreal was the number 1 overall seed in real life. So, I mean, who actually played the Red Wings in the finals? Pittsburgh, who are long gone. All right, 5-4, Toronto beats Montreal to tie the series at 1. Let's see, anything? Steen with his 3rd goal. No fights. Blake with 2 goals and an assist. All right. Koivu is up to 9 assists for Montreal. Okay, game 3. Toronto with a 6-1 slashing of Montreal. Sundin with a hat trick. Okay. Sundin and an assist. Did he fight? Did he get in a fight? No. All right. Well, okay. So Toronto's up 2-1. Now we've got Detroit and Chicago. Detroit wins game 3. They're up 3-0, 4-2. Datsuk with 2 goals. He's up to 7. He might have, if the Red Wings win, he might have the MVP. We'll see. We'll see. But looking good. Okay. Game 4s. Red Wings lose 4-0. They couldn't sweep. Kane gets a goal. Lang, Williams, and Sharp. And Lalame or whatever, 27 save shutout. All right. Toronto and Montreal. Montreal wins 5-2, tying the series at 2. Kovalev with his 8th and 9th goals. Plekanec with his 10th. What's butt ending, I wonder? Okay. Toronto and Montreal for game 5. Montreal wins 5-2. They're up 3-2. Plekanec with his 11th. Kostitsyn with 7th and 8th goals. Tucker, and Kostopoulos for fighting. Kostopoulos had a goal, but he didn't score. Okay. So Montreal is 1 win away from the Stanley Cup Finals. Detroit and Chicago. If Detroit wins this game, then they're waiting in the finals. Chicago forces game 6. 2 goals late. No. Oh, Seabrook and Maltby. No. Datsuk with his 12th assist. Lidstrom with his 13th. Well, all right. Here we go. Game 6, Detroit, Chicago. Detroit wins 5-4, winning the series 4-2, and going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Towles has 2 goals. Kane had 7 total. Datsuk with 2 more assists to give him 14. All right. So Detroit is in the Stanley Cup Finals, waiting for Toronto or Montreal. Montreal wins 4-3, and they eliminate Toronto. Kovalev with his 10th. Komisarek scores late to win the game. All right, so we are going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Montreal versus Detroit. All right, game 1. Montreal wins 4-3. Look out. Datsuk with a goal is 8th. I don't see Kovalev. He's on Montreal, right? Kovalev, yes. No fights. Ryder scores the winning goal in overtime. Alrighty. So Montreal's up 1-0. Game 2. Detroit wins 4-2, tying the series. Datsuk scores late to win, or not win. Franzen got the winning goal, but Datsuk scored again. Power play. I'm just noticing that. Okay. So it's tied 1-1. Okay, game 3. Montreal wins 3-2. Detroit's got all they can handle here. Datsuk scores again and gets another goal. Kovalev with an assist. All right, so Montreal's up 2-1. At least it won't be Chicago again, huh? Detroit wins 5-1 in Game 4. This series is tied 2-2. Maltby, Holmstrom, Draper, Cronwall, and Franzen. Datsuk with his 16th and 17th assists. Jeez. All righty, so that's tied 2-2. So now it's basically a best of 3. Montreal wins Game 5. Now Detroit's on a must-win or go home. There's 2 Kostitsins. One's got 10 goals. The other one has 4. Kopecky has scored the game. Scored for the Red Wings. And now the Red Wings are in win or go home for Game 6. They did. Red Wings win Game 6 2-1, forcing a Game 7. Datsuk with 2 assists again. He's at 19. All right, here we go. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. It doesn't get any better than this. Game 7s of the championship. Who will win? Detroit with a shutout. Ugh. Hudler scores twice. Datsuk gets his 20th assist. And Ozzy with a 19-save shutout. That's his second shutout of the playoffs. So the Red Wings just won the championship. Pavel Datsuk had the most points over Plekanec. He's 3rd in goals, 1st in assists. I mean, he's almost got to be the MVP. And Ozzy, look at this, 25 games over here he played goalie and allowed 2.24 goals for his average. All right, well, let's go see who the MVP is. Pavel Datsuk, just over Plekanec, and Osgood is the goalie. You could almost say that Osgood is the MVP of the whole deal because he beat second place by more points, but we're going to give it to Datsuk because 30 points is huge. So there you go. Where are the hat tricks? Snapshot, maybe? Miscellaneous? Hat tricks, there you go. There were a few. Heatley, Perry, Sundin, Ovechkin, and Michalek. But Datsuk, MVP, Red Wings, champions, 2007-2008 season. See you next time with something else.